So, Maanveer, talk to us about some specific examples where you've been able to use this particular tool to benefit organizations and businesses. It
Can
could
I
be a
stop?
case study, it
All
could
right.
be an example.
All right. So let's continue with. I'll share a very specific story, Sajini. I'll give you an example of what I was doing at a certification program in Calcutta a couple of years back.
Right.
I don't know if I mentioned this story when we met, but let me just say it for the benefit of our audiences over here.
Sure.
And it was a 2-day certification program I was doing in Calcutta.
Right.
And I had this very young mother on the first evening come and talk to me and say that, sir, I'll be late tomorrow morning. So I said, that's fine, that's perfectly all right. If you miss about the first half hour, you won't miss anything because I'll be doing a recap of what we have done today.
Right.
But if you go beyond that, then you're likely to miss something important because day 2 is generally the advanced learning and you do higher stuff on day 2. On the first day of training, you can't make assumptions about a person's information, but on day 2, you know that some foundation has been laid.
Right.
So she said, I'll try my best to come within the half an hour. And, curiosity, human nature, I asked her, I said, is everything okay? And she says, no, not really. So I said, is everything all right at home? And I could see her getting little sensitive. So I said, family okay? She said, my baby is not well. I said, oh, that's really sad. So you have taken to the doctor? She said, yes, we have a doctor's appointment in the morning and that's why I'll be late. So I said, how old is your baby? She said, 8-9 months old. I said, 8-9 months old and not well? I said, and how long has the baby been unwell? She said, ever since he was born.
Oh
I said,
my
what?
God.
She said, yes. Almost every 3 or 4 days, we're getting some tests done. I said, for a newborn baby, 8-9 months old, you're getting blood tests and x-rays and scans. I mean, come on. I mean, medicine can find out in 8-9 months what is wrong with the child. For God's sake, their immunities are not compromised. Their bodies are not subject to so many things that adult bodies are. So come on, they're pure.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know why I asked her. I said, get me your report, your extended disc behavioral report. I want to see it. So she said, why? I said, no, just bring me the report. So she brought her report to me and I just opened it to the page where we have the behavioral graphs, the profiles, as you know, the profile 2 and profile 1. I looked at it for a minute and I told her, I said, I'm going to ask you to do something. Will you trust me? She said, yes. I said, are you sure you will trust me? Because after you leave from here, I have no way of finding out, right?
Yeah.
She said, yes, I will. She said, do I have to spend money? I said, no. So she was worried. So I said, when you go home today, forget everything that is going on in your life.
Right.
And for the next 1 hour when you're home, just you and the baby live as if you're the only 2 people in the whole world.
Wow. Okay.
And she said, what are you saying? I said, trust me, just forget everything that is happening in your life.
Right.
Just go and be with your child like there is no third person in this whole world.
Okay.
She was not late the next morning. She was early. She was in tears. She brought sweets. And she says, I don't know why. I don't know what. But he has never slept the way he slept last night. He has never eaten and fed the way he fed last night. He has not, this is the first night in 8 or 9 months he has not cried all night. And she said, I am so much at peace. And he was so happy in the morning when I was leaving, I couldn't believe it. She says, what did you do? I said, profiles tell stories. And there is a story in your profile. I don't want to say it to you. If you want to talk about it, you're free. But if you don't want to talk about it, I respect. She said, I stay in a joint family. I've got a secure job. My husband's not got a very secure job and not a very high paying job, good job as compared to mine. My in-laws are always taunting me. It's because of me that this has happened. And they're saying that I gave birth to a baby early before he could settle down. So I'm always bearing the brunt, and he's not strong enough to stand up for me. And I'm bearing the brunt of this. I said, you're not bearing the brunt of it. Your child is bearing the brunt of it.
Right. Wow.
So when you are home, please just be with child. When we came back, she sent me a very long, appreciative email, which I forwarded to our global CEO, Jukka Sappinen. And he wrote back saying that when I developed this tool in 79 to 81 in Finland, I had no idea that this tool will bless a child's life in Calcutta forever. But these are just some of the things that can never be measured in any form other than pure human gratitude, thankfulness, blessings. So, and he told me, he says, I'm so happy that you take it forward even in this manner, because it's very easy to just let one thing go, okay, somebody's going to be late tomorrow morning, half an hour, forget it, how does it matter? Story would have never come out. But that's the story, one story that is very, very close to my heart. I still choke when I talk about it. It's almost 7-8 years back that it happened. It still brings out that emotion in me. That boy must be grown up. He must be a 7-8-year-old youngster. She's still in touch with me. She still writes to me off and on. And I know things are much better for them now. So that's one story. Many, many stories certainly with CEOs of companies, with managing directors, with stakeholders. Many, many, many stories. In fact, yesterday I was talking to somebody. This gentleman he's the head of learning and development at a very, very senior level with a very big IT company. Right. He's been following me for 7 years. Every time he's changed 3 jobs in 7 years, and every time he's changed jobs, Extended Disc goes with him with his new job. So I met him first in Gurgaon. There he was part of the project team that initiated assessments for about 30-40 leaders. He moved to Pune at a senior level, at a director level for HR. Extended Disc went for about 200-300 people to Pune with him. Now he's back to Noida. He's now working with a very, very large firm. So now he's initiated the process for the leadership team, some 40-50 people to start with, and then it will cascade down the organization. So these are just blessings. Because it's because of what the tool does to people. It's because of what the interpretation, the analysis, the value that they find in it. They know that it's very ethically sound. They know it.
Absolutely, Maanveer, that's a brilliant story, and I could see you. The emotions I could hear the emotions in your voice when you were sharing it with us. It's a beautiful story, and really is a great testimony to how powerful the tool really is. And you could actually change lives. You could change your own life with it.
Yes.
So, Maanveer, with these psychometric assessments and tools and behavioral tools, are there misconceptions also that are linked with them? Do you hear that from people when they talk to you about it, when they discuss it with you?
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
What are some common misconceptions, and what would you like to say to clarify them?
Let me tell you. There are 2 schools of thought in the construct of psychometric assessments. One school of thought is where the outcome must be obvious. All right. So the design of the questionnaire is such that if you tick this, tick this, tick this, you should be able to generate this, 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 and this.
Right.
And that's very simple. That's a very simplistic form. It's like saying if I add 2 plus 2, should the answer be 4? Of course, the answer should be 4 always. There's another school of thought which says no, the outcome must not be obvious, which means the person should not know what he's triggering. But that's the only way the subconscious or the unconscious mind will come into play, and that's how you really get to know about the person.
Right.
Now, one of the misconceptions, we follow the second school of thought. Okay, that is the structure of the question is so robust that you can't create a result that you want.
Right.
Okay. Now, having said that, I went just a couple of years back. I was talking to somebody, gave me this lead and said this very large organization. They buy about 400 to 500 disc assessments a year. They're buying it from competitors. So why don't you go and pitch in, and even if you get part of the share to start with, it would be a good number and a good insight, good inroad, because it's a very, very, very reputed organization. I said, sure. So I did all my paperwork process, and finally got to meet the director of HR. And she said, everything is fine, but your results must show only one style. Everybody whom we are recruiting should be of this style. I said, what do you mean? She said, no, you have to change your methodology, because we have to show to our board of directors that we are only recruiting a particular style. I said, but what if people are not of that style? She said, no, that we don't care. So I said, thank you very much. I am closing this conversation here. I'm not even going to report it to my head office because they're going to wonder what, that's one misconception, that the results can be tailored to suit you. It's not possible. It's just not possible. The methodology is so robust that if you try and cheat the system, you will get an invalid result. Extended Disc is the only organization in the world which, if a person does not follow a logic, to answer the questionnaire, he would not get a result. Most other instruments will produce something. Correct? But we don't, because this is not a question of tic-tac-toe, 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 you answer and then something will be generated. No. There has to be a methodology, there has to be a logic in your answering pattern. And if that is not followed, sorry, we will not produce a result. Right? That's our standard, that's our standing, that's our point of view.
Right.
Another misconception is that if I have done the assessment today, I don't need to redo it again in my life ever.
Yeah.
Big mistake. Big mistake. Because there are two parts to the assessment. One is your natural behavioral style, which you can't really change. We know that. But there is another part to the assessment, which is your perceived need to adjust. How are you thinking you need to adjust your behavior to your current environment? Since if, like in the example that is on the screen right now, if for instance, and if I allow myself to use the highlighter, so this is the area where the person's natural behavioral style is in the pink box.
Yeah.
Right? And this is how he's thinking he needs to work in his present environment.
Wow. Yeah.
It is more towards the DI region of behavior.
Right.
But what if that is not the expectation of the organization? What if the organization expects him to work in this direction?
Exactly.
What if the organization expects him to work in this direction?
Yeah.
What if his role demands that he should work in this direction?
Yeah.
Which means he's doing the work, but he's doing it in a direction which is completely different from what is expected of his role, his job, his task, or anything.
True.
So after doing the assessment, if this has been identified and correction is done, or debriefing is done, or coaching is done, or training is done, don't you need to measure it after 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to see whether the person has aligned himself? Of course you need to do it. So the assessment is the starting, it's not the ending.
Yeah.
It's the starting point. And then after 6 or 9 months, after you have done any deliberate intervention of the result, then you can find out whether the person has adjusted his behavior, is feeling the need to adjust his behavior, or he's still being stubborn and stagnant and saying, no, I will just continue behaving like this. Then there are other issues to deal with. So the assessment, misconception number 2 is that I have done it once. I did my test 5 years back. Okay? So what happens? It's like saying I did my blood test 5 years back. I don't need a blood test now. What is wrong with you? I mean, don't you value your health that you want to do? do it only once in 5 years. Are you? I mean, where are you coming from? So that's another misconception. Next misconception: all discs are the same. Really? I get mine free online. Really? Do you take medical advice free online, or do you go to a professional for medical advice? So, what is it that you are? So these are unfortunate frames of reference that people have, somehow built through either media or social media or uninformed people at one end of the spectrum, and at the other end of the spectrum, I told you an example of somebody who's been following this for like 7 years. So these are informed people. So you will always have this spectrum of misinformation and educated information, and people who value the assessment and its price and its cost, and you will have people who devalue it or poo-poo it and say, nah, what the hell? It's really, what is it? So these are some of the misconceptions.
Wonderful. Maanveer, so for the benefit of our audience, tell us about the whole process. If somebody wants to enroll for a disc assessment, wants to take a disc assessment, how do they go about it, and what happens step by step?
Well, individuals have the option of either getting in touch with me or any of our consultants. We have we have quite a few certified consultants all over India.
Yeah.
Some of them are extremely active, and they have annual licenses, and they have their repertoire, and they're certified, so they can debrief and get in touch with them. They express their needs, and they pay for the assessment. The report is generated. Then the consultant or me does a debriefing or a coaching, depending on what is required. We then try and monitor and measure over a period of time through telephonic interviews or conversations or any other form of organized feedback that we have, how they are progressing in the debrief. But again, it is the responsibility of the person to manage that, and not the responsibility of the coach.
Right.
Because the coach's responsibility ends at a particular time. You cannot get emotional, right? There has to be some ownership that the person takes towards his own results. It's like, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he was trying to be very brave. He said, I went to the doctor. He said, I require statins and I'm not taking them. So I said, who's to blame, the doctor or you? I mean, he did his job. Now, if you didn't want to listen to the doctor, why did you go to the doctor?
Yeah.
So, are you making any changes in your lifestyle? No, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I understand this is an online assessment.
It is online, yes.
It takes about 15-20 minutes for somebody to...
About 8 to 12 minutes, Sajani.
8 to 12 minutes.
And the good thing in India is that we have it in 6 languages, and in Dubai we also have it in Arabic.
Absolutely.
So it can be done. It's available in more than 60 languages globally.
Yeah. And as soon as a participant completes the assessment, the report is generated instantly. And
3 seconds.
They're able to see it, the whole detailed report very shortly after the assessment.
Yeah. It's a good idea to give participants sufficient time to complete the assessment.
Yeah.
This is one of the mistakes I have seen HR people make, that they've organized a training session, and 15 minutes before the training session, they share the links with the people in the training room and ask them to do the assessment in front of them, which means you put the person under pressure. You're actually kind of supervising the responses.
Yeah.
And you're expecting people to generate reports that look very good in terms of the size of the graphs and the profiles and all that. We never do that.
Right.
The second mistake that HR also makes, sometimes I have seen L&D HR training make, is that they get the reports, but they don't share it with the participants. They use it like a wow during the training program. Here you are, here's your report, wow. I mean, hey, come on. How would you like it if you went for a pathological test and the pathologist didn't give you your report till you visited your doctor and said, here's your report, your cholesterol is 350, wow. Come on, don't do that. Let the person read his report, let him feel comfortable, let him assimilate it, let him, think about it, let him analyze it, let him form his own questions, let him form his doubts, let him agree, disagree. It's a process. So give
It
people
is.
time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I learned from you. It's a process, it's a journey. Treat it with sensitivity, with
Yes,
allow the
absolutely.
person privacy, and make sure you take the person's
Absolutely.
permission before citing or
Absolutely.
asking
Absolutely.
questions, etc.
Absolutely. And now with GDPR and so many things coming up in Europe, you have to give a lot of information.
Yeah,
So when we are dealing with multinational organizations who have respondents coming from Europe or Europeans based in India, we have a lot of statutory requirements that we need to comply with. Otherwise, the liabilities are very heavy on the providers, service providers.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Maanveer, organizations generally use a tool like this, DISC, extended DISC, maybe for things like learning and development, succession planning, talent management, also for recruitment, maybe.
Yes.
So it does serve multiple purpose. Um,
Very well pointed out, Sajni. In fact, one of the reasons DISC came into existence
hmm,
was because the tools at that time in the 60s, 70s that prevalent
hmm,
were not catering to recruitment.
hmm,
They could not be used. They were primarily developmental tools because they assumed that once the person gets in, you can train him. You can do whatever you want and train
yeah,
him. Uh, yes, it's possible. But what if you hire smart? What
hmm,
if you hire right at the beginning?
correct.
You may not have done it for 10 years, but what if you started today?
Hmm,
How would the next 10 years of your organization look like? Right?
exactly.
What if you started using it for recruitment? What if you try to see where are the strengths and you use people based on their strengths in the right roles? What if you gave them tasks based on their strengths? What
Yeah.
if? So very well said, very well pointed out that yes, recruitment is possibly one of the strongest reasons why the disk theory also came into existence because hey, other tools were not catering to it.
Yeah. And I see it fitting in very well with any of these areas that HR is interested in, be it recruitment, be it succession planning, be it learning and development. DISC, I think, is a brilliant scientific and objective input to the whole decision making process as to whom to hire or whom to promote or whom to invest in.
True.
So we've
Teams,
been
working
able.
with teams. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Even for team alignments, which teams will work well together and which teams won't, and the dynamics could be very well represented by extended disk.
So imagine if this is the structure of a team.
Yeah.
So after doing the assessment,
Mm.
if you just without taking names, I mean, of course, you can put the names also on the map. We have the facility, but on immediately on a behavioral map, you get to know what is the composition of your team. What if your manager is here,
Mm.
and this is the structure of the team? What are the likely challenges that are likely to come about?
Right.
What if this guy is the team manager and this is the structure of the team? What if this guy is the team manager? So, the dynamics that can come into play are so powerful that when you look at it on a consolidated basis, and I'm going to just take this 2 levels up, Sajni, and
Mm.
with your permission. Do I have your permission to do that?
Yes, please, please.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What if we take the arrows?
Mm.
So we know the distribution. If you take the previous one,
Yeah.
we just know what is the distribution of the people's natural styles.
Right.
Okay. Now we know how they are thinking they need to behave.
Correct.
Now, which creates another completely different story for us.
Yes. Yeah.
So here, let's say these were the top management of a company.
Mm.
Why is their behavior so scattered? Why is it so all over the place? What is it that makes them want to behave so differently?
True.
And my third question, what if this is the vision of the organization, institutionalized vision?
Yeah.
Now we are seeing that only a few people are tending to behave in the direction of the vision, whereas the others are completely away from the vision. Why? What is happening? What is the alignment problem? Where is the misinformation? Where is the miscommunication? So, hey,
This is powerful and can create a massive aha moment for the leader of an organization.
very, very powerful, very powerful. Whenever I have used it like this, trust me, couple of years back, Sagni, I did a workshop for the very, very top um, uh, leadership of an organization. It's like each one of those people, in his net worth must have been something unbelievable.
Mm.
And they were all independent directors of a board.
Right.
And when they were all having communication challenges with each other.
Mm.
That is one program I am embarrassed, because I must have, it was a full day program.
Mm.
I must have spoken for 2 or 3% of the time.
Wow.
But what I was able to initiate as conversations between them, and for the amount that I spoke, the amount of money that I made was embarrassing, was awkward. But what I was able to initiate as a dialogue with them
Mm.
is still remembered today. And they didn't even realize when I left, because I had to take a flight back. It was in Delhi. I had to take a flight back. They had become so engrossed with each other and understanding and appreciating each other, they didn't even know. I went through another consultant, and he said bye-bye to me, and he said, Maanveer, I'll talk to you. I think, I'm going to sit till 12 o'clock at night to take this further. But
Wow.
they still remember it. The consultants remember it. The people remember it. It just fulfills every promise that all coaching manuals say: talk little, listen more, enable conversations. So it's just so powerful.
It is indeed. Yeah. Fascinating though this is. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask you something that I'm very curious about knowing. How does Maanveer use DISC in his personal life? What does your profile say about you? And does that come in the way of your interaction with your family, friends, and your social circle?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, where do you think Maanveer was on the extended list now? I think you know it.
I know you're a bit of a perfectionist. You strive for excellence, and you are very task-driven as well. I would say there's definitely a lot of the C in you. Do I read that correctly?
Yes.
But I think you're also very charming, and you're very people driven as well. I've seen you have these great conversations. Would you have a little bit of the I?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. There you go.
Okay. All right. So this way Maanveer is on the profile, on the map. It is SCI.
Okay.
Yeah. So primarily, Maanveer would like to be a person who prefers stability, continuity, systems, structure, organization, data, information, but he's not shy really in that sense. So the I, that little bit of the I does come out over there. Given a choice, still prefer to be the SC, leave me alone kind of thing. I'm happy with my books and my reading and my information and my structure and all that. I would prefer to be alone, but yes, I wouldn't be shy to talk to somebody or strike up a conversation with either gender. It doesn't matter. Like for instance, the other day I'd gone to collect my mom's reports, and there was a girl waiting, and she said, "You can go inside and sit down." And I told her, I said, "Hey, you have a very well trained voice. So are you from the voice background?" He said, "Yes, I used to be." So I'm not shy to strike up a conversation if I need to strike up a conversation. And if there is something nice to say to somebody, why not say it to that person? Why hold yourself back just because you're an SC? And that's what I'd like to tell people. Don't use your behavioral style as an excuse to go through life. Use your style as an enabler to understand who you are, and then also explore dimensions of other side. What would have happened if I had not spoken to the girl? I would have never known her name. I would have never known her number. I wouldn't have known what all she's done in her life. She was so happy to talk about it. And How to Win Friends and Influence People says that, be interested rather than be interesting.
Yeah.
So be concerned about people, show genuine empathy, and there's so much to learn from people. So what's the harm? And what would the worst could have happened? She would have said, "Mind your own business, old man." I would have said, "Okay, I'll mind my own business, young lady. That's fine." It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's the worst that could have happened, right? So, but she would have figured out I had a mask on, so she would have figured out that part
Absolutely.
of it.
Yeah. And I love what you said, don't use your profile as an excuse for to get through life.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's brilliant. So wow, okay. So Manveer, on a parting note, this is my last question, and it's a little more profound than the previous one, which is, what are Manveer's values in life? What is that message that you would like to leave with our audience, to inspire them to continue learning and to continue to growing, to continue discovering new things? So, what values do you live your life by? And what is your parting message for our audience?
Sajni, this is the only question that kept me awake from your list of questions that you sent me. That the question that my values, the values that I follow in life, come from very hard places, Sajni. Some of those places are dark, some of those places are hard, but that's where my values come from. What I am, what I do, I have learned the hard way. I have really learned the hard way, and I don't know if just sharing values makes any sense, but I'll share a small story, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Yeah, it's a story about a young boy, very young, maybe about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old, and one day when his father comes home from work. He's very keen to play with his father, and his father is dead tired. So his father, just wants to sit down on the sofa, put up his feet, have his lovely cup of green tea, which you and me enjoy so much, green tea, and read the newspaper and relax. And this boy is keen to play with his father. Daddy, play with me. Daddy, play with me. Father is tired, really has no energy and no motivation, and he knows he should do it, but he has no motivation to do it at that point of time. So while his father is reading the newspaper, he sees a nice full-page ad of some airline, and it's got the globe on it with all the countries mapped out and everything. So he tears that sheet off the newspaper, puts it into a couple of small pieces like a jigsaw puzzle, and gives it to his son and says, "You know what? You put this jigsaw puzzle together, and when you finish, then I'll play with you." So he said 2-3 hours. By that time, it'll be dinner time. The kid will forget. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. Not the best thing to do as a father, but hey, I need the time today. And the son comes back in a few minutes. He's completed the puzzle.
Okay.
And the father is amazed. He says, "Did you take help from mommy?" He said, No. Mommy's making supper in the kitchen. He says, "Did you take help from your sister?" He said, No. She's busy studying for her exams. So he says, "How did you do it? Is there another newspaper in the house somewhere which you looked at and did this?" He says, "No, Papa. Behind the picture of the world was a photograph of a man. And I realized if I put the man together, the world will fall into place."
Wow. Beautiful.
So my message is, I think I'm in the process of putting the man together. I think I have put a large part of it together. I hope the world will fall into place.
Wow.
But my suggestion to people would be, don't try and change the world. The only thing that you can change is here. The only thing that you can control is here. Those who have the awareness have the responsibility. But my wife does this, but my father does this, but my mother does this. Who is certified in this? Who knows this? Those who have the awareness have the responsibility. Control this, and the world will fall into place.
Wow, I have goosebumps. I loved that story. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maanveer. I am so indebted, and I feel a lot of gratitude for the time and for this effort from your side. So thank you so much for talking to us today and for sharing this valuable nuggets of information. I'm sure everybody who's watching this will be hugely benefited and will be inspired.
Thank you, Sajni. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure, my honor. You know how much I value this relationship, and so grateful that people and organizations like you take the effort to do things that can initiate and touch human beings and initiate the change. And one by one, one by one, one by one, we can make the world a better place.
Thank you so much, Maanveer. On that note, we are signing off. We'll be back very soon with another speaker, another guest, another stimulating conversation. Stay tuned.